President Biden meets with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy this afternoon for fresh talks on the nation's debt ceiling. And Minnesota is the latest state to legalize recreational marijuana. Good morning. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. President Biden has returned to Washington after attending the G7 summit in Japan. He was deeply involved in debt ceiling talks over the weekend. These halted for a time, but have since resumed. Biden will meet House Speaker Kevin McCarthy today at the White House for fresh talks. McCarthy says Republicans are focused on fiscal discipline.
We've got to find ways that we can have savings. We got to be smart about the waste, the COVID money that has sat out there for 2 years. We got to be able to bring out. We got to be able to grow the economy.
But Democrats and Biden say the GOP is also focused on stringent work requirements that will force millions of Americans to lose Medicaid. There may be compromise over unspent money for COVID projects and on speeding development for new energy projects. The U.S. economy has slowed as the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates to reduce inflation. Steve Beckner reports a May survey from the National Association for Business Economics reflects concern that the economy could slip into recession.
The business economists are slightly more upbeat about the outlook than a few months ago, but still expect real GDP growth of just 0.4% this year. The group's president, Julia Coronado, says her members are divided as to whether a recession is likely in the next year. Although some Wall Street players hope the Fed will reduce interest rates later this year, the economists doubt it will cut rates until the first quarter of next year. Until then, they expect the key federal funds rate to stay above 5% as the Fed keeps trying to reduce inflation to 2%. For NPR News, I'm Steve Beckner.
Minnesota lawmakers have passed legislation legalizing recreational marijuana in the state. From Minnesota Public Radio, Samuel King reports the governor is expected to sign the bill into law.
Starting in August, Minnesotans would be able to legally grow and possess limited quantities of marijuana, but it could be up to 18 months before state-licensed dispensaries are set up. Nevertheless, the bill's House author, Democratic Representative Zach Stevenson, says creating a state marketplace with only a 10% tax rate will make Minnesota safer.
That will mean that Minnesota will have one of the lowest tax rates on cannabis in the country, which again is very important to our goal of transitioning from the illicit marketplace into a legitimate marketplace.
Minnesota would become the 23rd state to legalize recreational marijuana. For NPR News, I'm Samuel King in St. Paul.
In Ukraine, the contested Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant operated on emergency backup power for several hours today. It's the 7th time this has happened. The plant is held by Russian troops. Ukraine's top power official warns that if the emergency backup generators fail at Zaporizhzhia, there will be a radiation hazard and the chance for a nuclear disaster. This is NPR.